guys, Troy here from Cape Ann Conversations, and we've got one of our staples here of Cape Ann with us. I've got Lynda from the Peabody Essex Museum with me today. Lynda, say hi.
Oh, hi, Troy. How are you?
It's so
And
good
everybody.
to have you. Yeah, and shout out to all you listeners. Remember, these are our local businesses. You know, these are our local not-for-profit organizations. So if you get a chance, like and share. And write a review to keep this exposure going for these local entities. But Lynda, let's give us a little history lesson today on the Peabody Essex Museum, because we're talking hundreds of years.
Oh, yeah. Not for me, but, yes, for the museum. So the Peabody Essex Museum was founded in 1799 in Salem, Massachusetts. So let's locate us. And it was not originally called the Peabody Essex Museum. It was the East India Marine Society. And it was created by sea captains and entrepreneurial traders in Salem who went out around the world in search of trade in places like China and India and other parts of the world, including the Pacific Northwest. And in the process of trading, they also turned out to be collectors and became really interested in the cultures that they were trading with and brought back to Salem all manner of objects representing the cultures and the times that the traders were there. And so they decided to create a society for the community of Salem in order to learn about the larger world. And from there, decades go by and different aspects of the museum took on different kinds of names. And by 1992, there'd been two organizations, the Essex Institute, which was in many respects like an historical society for Salem and very interested in American history and culture. And there was the Peabody Museum of Salem that had been very oriented towards archaeology, anthropology, science, that sort of thing, the maritime. And so in 1992, those two organizations came together. So there's the Peabody Essex Museum. So it's not in Peabody and it's not in Essex, it's in Salem, but the names from the different organizations came together to create the Peabody Essex Museum in 1992. So that's the really short version of a long history.
Yeah. How has the building and infrastructure changed over that time as well?
So when the traders created the East India Marine Society, they built something called the East India Marine Hall. So that's the core building. But since then, we've expanded. So in 2003, for example, we opened a new building done by the Canadian-Israeli architect Moshe Safdie. And in 2019, we opened another wing by Enniet Architects. And in between, in the 19th century, there were other buildings built, so they all come together in this massive complex. But in the process of merging the Essex Institute into the Peabody Essex Museum, it meant that we also have, I think it's like 21 historic properties in Salem, so houses. And recently, we also became an arboretum because we have all of these gardens. So we're like a big campus in many respects, and most of it's under one roof, but you can also be outdoors and walk to the historic properties and go through the gardens.
Yeah, that's a lot to manage.
Oh, yeah, it is.
So talk about some of the exhibits and some of the art that historically you guys have shown in the museum as well.
Mm-hmm. So in part because those sea captains were going out across the world, we have a very global collection, and we also have a very local collection in the sense that we have an incredible collection of American decorative arts, especially furniture and American paintings. But, we have works from China, Japan, India, the Oceanic area, the islands of Hawaii, from indigenous people across the United States, and a tremendous amount of maritime art because, indeed, that was the origin story, the industry, if you will, that really helped get the museum off the ground. Fantastic photography collection, and I'm not supposed to have favorites, but you asked me a little earlier, do you have a favorite? And so, because I'm really into fashion and textiles, I would be happy to say that we have a fantastic collection of fashion and textiles from around the world. So it's this interesting interplay between American culture and visual arts and the visual arts and cultures from all around the world.
And it's not a museum that's just pigeonholed for adults or collegiate, like scholarly, viewing. This is something that is also like a family oriented exhibit. I mean, this is something like my own family goes, like my kids go probably 3 times a year because they love to see what's going on there.
Well, first of all, thanks for going and bringing your family. And I'm suspecting that your kids really like our Art and Nature Center because we do have a natural history collection, and we've found a way to talk about the relationship between creativity, human creativity, and nature, because we are part of nature as human beings. But the museum is free to residents of Salem and people who work in Salem. But our goal really is to be as human-centered and as accessible as possible to as many people as possible. So we're told we're really friendly
Yeah.
as a museum. And, sometimes I think people think of museums as, oh, I don't know what about that art in there and it's not for me and that sort of thing. But we just basically say, come on in and explore the world. You might discover something that you never thought about before, and you might figure out something about where you are in the world as well. So very family-oriented and just very people-oriented because people made the art, so there are lots of human stories to discover.
And it's big enough where there's different stuff for everybody. If you're not into one type of art, if the textiles, fashion aspect isn't there, I mean, there's plenty of other exhibits. As we were talking about, it's expansive. The buildings, the connections, all of that are very expansive. So there's something for everyone there. You mentioned accessibility. You guys have done a good job. I know my kids have used this before. There's, most libraries have passes to the Peabody Essex Museum, which can make it free or close to free.
Yep.
Senior discounts. There's all types of stuff. But that being said, it's still an organization that's trying to raise money. So members are important. So when you talk about this community listening to this podcast today, it's like, how can you help? Becoming a member is a core
absolutely.
trait still to this day. How many members are we talking about currently?
Well, we've got I think around 10,000 members, and
that's incredible.
Yeah, and we'd love, of course, for it to increase. I mean, the memberships really do mean that you have access to different kinds of events, and you can come in regularly, enjoy all of the exhibitions. We do not charge an entry fee specifically for our special exhibitions, the ones that are up for several months and then are down and perhaps move on to another museum. So the membership, gives you access to different kinds of programs and reduced rates in our shop, in our cafe, that sort of thing.
Yep. Talk about some of those exhibits, permanent versus moving. What's moving? What's in there now? What is going to be coming in there later this year? How's that changing?
So you mentioned your kids. So in the Art and Nature Center, we have this wonderful exhibition about narwhals, which frankly I had to learn about myself. So
the unicorns of the sea.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of the origin story, I think, of the idea of unicorns. But they are amazing, and they are endangered. So again, through the Art and Nature Center, we're trying to bring families' attention to how it is that they can understand how to preserve and save nature. And right now, again, it sounds very maritime, and it is. We have a gallery that is dedicated to material from our Phillips Library, and we have an exhibition about the book Moby Dick, which is up until, I think it's March 2026. But it's an incredible book. That really wasn't all that successful during its lifetime of the author, but became really, really famous. And so we do readings from the book, but it's fascinating to just see how people glom on to the whole notion of Moby Dick. But I'm not going to ask you if you've read it. So.
Fair.
We're getting ready to open our new Korean art gallery in May, and we have a fantastic really important exhibition of American art coming from the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts in June. So by May 4th, we'll be closing a show that we've called Saints, Sinners, Lovers, and Fools. So it's an opportunity to see incredible masterwork paintings from what's called Flanders, the Flemish, part of the Northern Renaissance, and close to the Netherlands, that sort of thing. But people have really been enjoying seeing all of these beautiful European paintings. So I encourage people to come before the show closes on May 4th.
Yeah, and you guys have schools coming through there all the
Yep.
time.
School visits. Yep.
That's probably a big draw to getting those kids through the door, maybe even for the first time for them. And then, they might bring their parents back and be
Yeah.
like, this place was awesome.
Yeah. During COVID, of course, school visits dropped off, but we're really happy that schools are now in a position to bring the kids to the museum. So we have, special programs that we arrange for them with their teachers. The teachers get information in advance to help them get prepared to, help the kids take them through the museum, but we provide a guide and that sort of thing. So, yeah, we hope that the kids get excited and can then get their parents excited about coming to the museum. I grew up across the street from a small museum in Scranton, Pennsylvania, so I know firsthand the value of that early exposure. And there are lots of studies that show when people come early as kids, they're more likely to become regular museum goers. So that's what thrills me.
Do you find there's other events or corporate outings or things involved with the museum? Or is it mostly that, the kids?
No, we do. I mean, we rent our spaces for things like weddings and corporate events. And then, there are people who are, CEOs of corporations and they want to provide extracurricular enrichment for their employees. So they do bring them for those kinds of visits, and we provide tours and access to the collection galleries. Because in addition to the special exhibitions, we have galleries that really feature different parts of our collection. And so we don't call them permanent because we do change things up, but they're just as designed and actively interpreted as what we do for our special exhibitions.
Are there any sections dedicated specifically to local artists?
So we have an exhibition that's ongoing that we call Salem Stories. So it's sort of like the alphabet of Salem, A to Z. So that's more about the culture and the history of the region, but it does feature specific artists and specific personalities and people who've contributed to the area. We do work with a lot of contemporary artists, but they come from all over the world.
Yeah. And that's kind of the nice part about it, is that it's bringing so much of the world here for people to see. When you don't even have to leave Salem to go.
Yeah, or you come
it.
to Salem, and obviously Salem has its reputation for a rather tragic event that occurred in American history in 1692, and we do have an exhibition that's based on interpreting the Salem witch trials. The museum happens to own some of the few authentic objects that were owned by people who were accusers or were accused. So that the Salem witch trials were just really important for the evolution of the concept of innocent until proven guilty. That whole project had a lot to do with women's rights or the lack of women's rights. So it's still very relevant as a topic. And we do try to offer as an authentic and an interpretation of those events as possible. So I hope I'm conveying it's a really wide gamut of things that people can experience.
Yeah. Talk about some of the things that you deal with in your position there every day. What's the thing that kind of keeps you up at night, or what does the museum need? I can go on the website and I can see even job listings, but is that something that's seasonal for you guys? Are there volunteer positions? If somebody listening to this is saying, man, I love that place, I go there all the time, how could I help? What would be the best help for you?
So I'm the director of the museum, so the buck stops here,
Yeah.
for sure. And I'm not sure that I have things that keep me up late at night in terms of worrying per se. It's more about the aspiration to just make sure that we are doing as much as possible to be available to people and to offer authentic information and, joy and respite and, the opportunity to be inspired. We do have a very active guides program, which means that they give tours to people. So we are looking for people to join the guide program, and that is a volunteer kind of arrangement. We also have a new paid guide program where people have more specialized knowledge to deal with different kinds of people coming through the museum. And we do have some volunteer positions, but we basically rely on our guides for the kinds of public interfacing kinds of things. Jobs, it's not seasonal, really. It's more about, someone decides, they need to have the next phase of their career somewhere else. So it's kind of unpredictable.
Yeah.
But we are a good employer. We've got about 250 employees as staff, and we're very competitive in terms of our pay equity and that sort of thing. So it's a great place to work.
Yeah, and I'm sure you get all that immersive experience at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not like digging ditches. It's
No.
it's a great fun environment that's always changing.
Yeah.
Which is perfect. You mentioned people can rent the space, but you also do throw your one big gala, right, every
in
year.
November 8th this year, yes.
And that's technically open to the public. The public can buy tickets to the gala.
Yes, absolutely. So, there are people, of course, who buy tables and invite their friends, but people can buy individual tickets. And then in addition to the gala, which is usually a more formal sit-down dinner and some entertainment and an auction, then we also have what we call our after party. So that's the big dance party with either a DJ or a live band or that sort of thing. And more and more people are coming every year, several hundred people. So it can get pretty active and energetic. And then we also do different kinds of experiences throughout the museum. This past gala was really inspired by our Conjuring exhibition that just closed that was all about the relationship between magic and art. So for the gala, we had tarot card readers. At the gala itself, we had a mentalist who did all kinds of holy cow, how did he ever figure that kind of stuff out? So, it's again about yes, come and support the museum, but come and have some fun together with us.
Yeah, and there can be a good local who's who of people, I'm sure,
yes,
there,
absolutely.
Which is always a fun little rubbing shoulders event.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And then, we do also things like community breakfasts where we gather community leaders. We have one coming up with legislative leaders. We're hosting the dinner for the Salem Chamber of Commerce soon. So we try to be as active and a participant, like a really responsible citizen within our specific community, and then also for the North Shore.
Yeah, you guys are doing it all.
Yeah, we're trying.
It's a big job you have.
Yeah, but keeps me young, keeps me active, and I really love it.
Good. Any other events or anything you wanted the people to know about, or?
Well, I would say that I just want to encourage people to come to see the big American art exhibition that we open in June, and then in the fall, we are opening an exhibition of the Singaporean fashion designer Andrew Ginn, who made a big splash in Paris as he was a successful designer. And fashion, and his fashion, global fashion, is really what's going to inspire the theme of the gala. So people, often dress up for these galas and stuff according to the theme. So, always active. And when you asked me to talk about the early history of the museum in December, we do open a really fantastic installation in the origin place of the museum, our East India Marine Hall. So people will get to see a whole slew of things that were early collected for the museum. So, everything from natural history specimens to beautiful objects from China and Japan and examples that really represent the whole cross section of the collection.
Yeah. Well, Lynda, I appreciate you coming on here and telling everybody this story. This is one for our community. Not every community has. I grew up in northern Michigan, and we had a Hemingway museum in northern Michigan because Hemingway would come and visit like our part of the country. That was his like second home.
Huh, I had no idea.
But
Wow.
outside of that, there was no museums. There was no way to go get this sort of immersive culture. I would have had to drive down to like Detroit or Grand Rapids or something to that effect. And so like to have this in our backyard and accessible to everyone, like there's no excuses from an accessibility perspective. You can find your way in there. That's something, it would be a huge miss if somebody didn't get in there. You know?
Well, I really want to encourage people to come if they haven't come before. And yes, I mean, people come to Salem and go, whoa, how did this museum land here? But Salem is one of these places that's just really been curious about the world and entrepreneurial. And it's part of what's really still very much a part of the spirit of Salem. And I would also say for the whole North Shore, frankly.
Yeah, it is. It's a special little spot. And so hopefully these listeners go and check it out. And thank you for coming on. I wish you all the continued success with you and your team and the new exhibits coming in. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Well, and thank you for having me. It's fun to do this kind of stuff because it's, if I don't love it and don't get people excited, then, people don't come. So please do come.
Yeah, perfect.
Thanks.
Lynda, Peabody Essex Museum, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you.